Hey everyone, we are here today with David Howson. He is a wonderful financial and small business coach, and I know you're absolutely going to get some nuggets of just inspiration and really challenge on how you're doing your business because I definitely have. I tell David all the time that he is really one of the key figures in how confident I've gotten in my coaching practice and stuff. So hopefully you'll get a lot of those same nuggets with kind of his story and maybe some of the breakthroughs he's had, maybe some of the mistakes, and kind of leave that up to what you want to share, David. With that, I did pronounce your last name right. It's Houston.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Houston. Spell like Houston, pronounce Houston.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just let you take it from here, David.
Okay. Well, as Teddy said, I'm David Houston. Teddy and I met at a DFW coaches meeting live in the Dallas area, went to several of those together. And then due to the distance from Dallas, I wasn't able to continue in the group. But Teddy's kind of been an inspiration to me, and hopefully I've been a little inspiration to him. I'm a financial coach, as Teddy said, RPC, small business consultant, foundations and personal finance teacher. I have been an FPU coordinator, and I plan to teach foundations in entrepreneurship in addition to foundations in personal finance at the high school level next year. I've been a coach officially since June of 2023, so this is my 1 year anniversary. I did teach financials foundations 10 years ago to my daughter's senior class, so have been involved with Ramsey for quite a while. Prior to becoming an RPC, I was in the automobile business for about 40 years. I was a new car dealer for 26 years and an independent used car dealer for 16 years. I exited the used car business in September of 2022. And I chose to exit the used car business because I either had the option of going deep into more massive debt or uh, pay off my existing debt, which was in seven figures, and exit the business. And I chose exit the business. I stumbled and fumbled around for about 6 to 9 months, looking for jobs, putting out resumes, doing things, and came across FCMT and decided I would try that and see what I thought. It stirred up a lot of emotions in me and a lot of mission driven um, energy. And I realized that coaching and teaching would feed me and sort of fuel my mission in life. And so decided to jump in with both feet into the RPC and financial coaching world. I then found, I got about three clients in my first 45 days. And I thought, well, this is easy. This is going to be a snap. I'm going to really kick it in this. And was off to the races. And then I found out that client creation, the consultation process, and the coaching process to be more challenging than I thought it would be. There's a lot of different ways to do things, different directions that you can go, different opinions from different people. So I found myself scatter shooting all over the place and not ever really dialing into what moved me and my clients and prospects forward. So 6 months in, I hired a coach. Actually, I hired two coaches, one to help me with creating presentations and workshops, and then the other coach to help me with general coaching process, purpose, products, etc. Joined a mastermind group about 2 months ago, and I'm going to a 2 day intensive, as I mentioned to Teddy earlier, in Houston for 8 hours a day of coaching with some high level coaches and business people. After that, I'm going to reevaluate how I'm coached. I'll have a coach, always have a coach. I just don't know that it'll be the same one that I currently have. Not that I'm dissatisfied with him. I just want to see what else is out there and see if there's different perspectives that I can glean and gain from to grow as a coach. I've coordinated two FPU classes, one live and one virtual. And in brutal total honesty, I'm probably done with FPU. I did it for mission fulfillment and for some client creation. But there are so many coaches who seem to love FPU and what it does. I'm going to leave it with them. I've loved teaching foundations in personal finance, and I'm sure I'll love foundation in entrepreneurship. I do get paid to teach. It's at a local private school, but it is a fraction of my coaching fee. But I like to do it, and it's something I really enjoy. I have generated some clients from the teaching position. A couple of parents have hired me to coach their daughters who are incoming juniors in college, and I'm working that niche as a way to generate prospects and clients, and it's got some legs to it. So I'm working that angle, and the fun thing about coaching kids in college is it's a lot less consequential than coaching clients directly. There's no, life or death. I've got to make my budget or my debt's going to do whatever to me. These kids want to learn. They want a foundation, and the parents want them to be ready when they get out into the real world to be able to handle things. And that's been something that's been rewarding and something that I see. I've talked to a lot of parents of college age kids, and there's something about that because parents realize that their kids don't listen to them as well as they would to somebody else outside of their sphere. So I'm seen as non-threatening and non whatever, and can serve them in a coaching capacity and a teaching capacity that I think will serve me long term. One of my perceived client creation tools are presentations and workshops. I've given a presentation to a large realtor group on the business life of a realtor. I've got own my process and take it into the employer world to hopefully look at large employers as an opportunity to use presentations and workshops as a client creation tool. Let's see, just some basics about my coaching practice. The most clients I've had at one time is 13. That was on April 1st. On May 31st, I had 6 clients. So I went from 13 to 6 in 60 days. And that was a kick in the teeth for me, one that I struggled with and sort of to come to grips with. I'm back up to 9, and I work as much on staying patient and having a positive mental mindset as I do on anything else. And I would advise that as part of your coaching practice to work on your mindset as much as anything you do, because patience and positivity are essential to doing well as a coach. Just some specifics. I charge $300 per session. That's usually one session per month. I tell my prospects in a consultation that they need to commit to usually between 6 months to a year of coaching, depending on their needs. And if they can't commit or obligate themselves to that time frame, I don't work with them. My goal is to have 20 clients by the end of the year, and within 3 years, I want to replace the income I was making as an automobile dealer as a financial coach. That's a big, hairy, audacious, and sometimes scary goal, but it keeps me motivated and moving forward. That is a marathon. One of the things that I've learned about coaching is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I've got a 3-year plan. If you're planning on jumping in and seeing immediate results, I'd recommend you reassess that. Because this is something that just takes time, and a lot of the more experienced coaches that I've talked to and that y'all talk to and see on calls and whatnot, you learn a lot from the coaches that have been doing it for 2 years plus, because they've gone through all the mental anguish and the emotions and the client drops and process improvements and all the things that you need to do to be an effective coach. Another thing that I feel like is important as a concept is that you need to understand that you not only are a coach, but you are in the sales business. You are in sales as a coach, and the process to creating a coaching client is very similar, since I was in the business, to selling a car. I don't mean to equate it as the same thing, but building rapport, identifying wants and needs, building value in the product that you're selling, and then asking for the sale are essential concepts to creating and keeping a client in coaching. And it's the same thing in any sales field. And if you don't get the sale, either find out what the objections are and try to work around those objections, or follow up because your prospect did contact you for a specific need, and that need's probably not going to go away. They're not going to fix it themselves. So follow up is very critical to the process. And I would recommend you adopt a follow them till they buy or die mentality. I mean, sometimes if they tell you not to call them again, there's clients that I've had say, take me off your call list. And I said, great. And I've called them 6 months later, and they said, one client I've actually signed as a client, he told me to take him off his call list. I did. Followed up with him 6 months later. He said, I thought I told you to take me off. And I said, I forgot. And he goes, well, I got some questions for you. And we ended up working as a client. So sometimes just powering past no works to your benefit. But that's kind of a little thumbnail sketch of who I am and what I do, and be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I appreciate that, David. I think you bring valuable insight into, especially like with business, experiencing the highs and lows, right? And I know a lot of us get into financial coaching. We assume the identity as a coach, and we're working on the identity as a business. But as you know, like if the income goes down, it's really easy to fall into the belief that like I'm somehow less valuable as a coach, or I'm there's something wrong, right? Which could be true, right? We always have room for improvement. When you talk about patience, getting through some of those low seasons and things like that, could you recall maybe some of the strategies or things that you would go to in order to push through that? Like, was doing more prospecting and stuff like that encouraging to you, or was that like a dread? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it can't be a dread because it's just essential to your survival as a coach and as a business person, as a salesperson. And one of the things that you have to steel yourself for is no's, is rejection. And you have to understand that rejection is not um, an outright rejection of you. It's a mental frame of mind that everybody enters into most relationships with. I mean, you have a fear of opening up to somebody else. So most people are predisposed to objecting to what it is that you're saying or offering just out of reflex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most objections come from. And so if you can get in the mindset of hearing no and being okay hearing no and understanding that no is just part of the process, then you can get past the no's and start asking questions that lead to yeses.
I love that. And one thing I also wanted to touch on, not entirely related to that, it's one of the things that you really challenged me on. And I definitely see that a lot of people that are watching this will do the same. Because when we first met, I was like, I'm just looking to possibly match my income someday, 3 years down the line or something like that. And you really challenged me on like why so long, like why such a long timeline, and same thing with like why the scale, like why are you only thinking at $60,000 a year, like what's stopping you from 100 or $200,000 a year? And even though that's like unfathomable to me, writing it down and just like imagining if I had to get to that point, what would I have to do, like that was like one of the most powerful things you've shared with me. And to the new coach out there who's starting, like, oh, I don't know my price and this and that. I don't even know how much I'm going to make in this business. Like, do you have a word of encouragement to really like encourage them to push what they believe is possible?
My mother ingrained in me that you're only limited by the limitations that you place upon yourself. And having been in business for 40 years, especially the car business with the ups and downs and the economy and the interest rates and things that can have COVID, things that can have such a huge impact, you learn to weather the storm, and you're going to have to do that as a coach. Um, you're going to have to keep working on your patience, but also be vision driven, be dream driven, be goal driven, be goal oriented. Um, and really, you can accomplish whatever you set your mind to over time. And you need to be realistic about it. And you need to realize that the work you put in is the results that you'll receive. It's not going to happen. I see a lot of coaches get in the 3 to 6 month range, and they're kind of frustrated. They're frustrated with RPC leads. They're frustrated with, being ghosted. They're frustrated with people not doing what they ask them to do. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. And as you experience things and study yourself and ask yourself, how did I do in that consultation? How did I do in that session with that client? How did I do on that phone call? What could I have said differently? And if you're always in a learning mindset, you can always find ways to improve your processes so that over time it'll pay off in the long run.
Absolutely. It's like it's this mix of your patience and endurance with the activities that you're doing to see the outcome with the variety of like branching out, trying new paths, especially when it comes to lead generation and client creation. I know a lot of us struggle with that. And you kind of shared, you take a lot more, it seems like a local approach to building clients, right? Like your the high schools and the community and chamber of commerce. And if any of y'all have watched Angie's interview, if not, I'll just like link it in the description. But she takes an online approach, right? Doing social media and posts and connecting that way. And so you can see there's like multiple ways you can go about the business, you can have a mix of them. You can go all in on the local, all in on the online. And so this kind of hopefully to the coach that's watching this gives you some encouragement that just pick somewhere to start and actually start with it, right? And have patience because one of the things I think David, you can attest to this too. Like in some of the development calls we've been in, it takes some time to create clients, and if you're low on clients, it means you weren't prospecting enough 3 months ago. And so, like, just think about the conversations I'm having today. In 3 months, will create the clients, and that's scary, right? That's 25% of the year away to create that. But that consistency and constantly showing up, I think is so powerful. And like you said, having the endurance and the mentality that this is not a get rich quick thing. Like one day, it would be super great if we go from $2,000 months to $25,000 months. But business does not work that easily, does not work that cleanly.
This is a business. I mean, it is. I mean, even if you're just by yourself, you're responsible for every aspect of it. You're the accounting team department, you're the marketing department, you're the sales manager, the salesman, the wash rack, the service department, the parts department. You're everything.
Yeah, hopefully one day as you're building more income, you can start delegating the stuff that you don't like to do, right? Like some of the
Can't
admin work and
you
marketing
can't.
stuff or things like that.
I think, David, you were saying earlier about your own personal journey, getting out of the business you were in and saying you were in six figures. Was that correct? Of debt?
7.
Seven figures? Oh, I must have
Yes,
missed that.
it's
Holy.
okay.
So I'd love to hear more of your story on that if you feel comfortable sharing, because that's
Absolutely.
definitely an interesting
So when I was,
story that I'd
I'll
love to
just
know more about.
Yeah. So when I was in my I'm 61 years old now. When I was in my mid 40s, I owned my own business, had a great career, nice house, had a lake house, everything, wonderful family, all that, and thought I had everything under control. But I always had a sinking feeling that was sort of nagging and pulling at me. I had a massive amount of debt, had very little in savings, and was pretty sure that I was spending substantially more than I was making. So I took a legal pad and wrote down average of the last 12 months of expenses and took it home to my wife and put that legal pad on the kitchen table, shoved it across at her and said, "We have a problem." She shoved it back at me and said, well, she didn't, I'll tell you, she gave me a lesson on diplomatic ways to communicate with your spouse. And what and once she was finished with that, and I understood her perspective rather than trying to get her to understand mine, we decided we'd enroll in FPU, and we did. About halfway through FPU, we just pinky swore that we were going to do everything that was said in the class, and that was how we were going to lead our lives financially. And shortly thereafter, our financial lives improved, and our relationship, more importantly, improved as well, which was of great benefit. But I still had that sinking feeling, and I realized that that feeling was associated with carrying debt. And so at that point in time, I decided to pour in all of my efforts in my businesses and what I was doing to eliminate my debt. And it was like getting in a plane, getting to 38,000-foot cruising altitude and realizing that you were horrendously terrified of flying. And all I could think was, I got to get this plane back on the ground. And so I did everything I could to get there, got close to it in my business. COVID hit, drove the price of cars astronomically and the availability of cars to the floor. And so the only option at that point was, in order to buy cars, I either had to pay more and buy more and spend more money, which meant more debt, or just get out. So September 29th at 3:57 p.m., but who's counting? I paid my bank $1.1 million and was debt free for the first time since probably age 22. And all of the anxiety and stress that I had been 3.7 million in debt. And if any business person ever tells you that was business debt, we all sign personal guarantees for that business debt, so it's all personal. There's no such thing as business debt unless you work on Wall Street, in which case we wouldn't be having this conversation. Getting that debt load off of my plate, it shook me to my core and sent me places I'd never been before, and put me in mental spots that I didn't want to be in. And I realized once I was done with that, my life was the sinking feeling was gone, and everything was okay. And no matter what happened, we were going to be okay. A lot of faith improvement, digging into my spirituality and my beliefs and my faith in God and turning to Him was critical to that. But that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, Sam and I were like completely
Just baffled.
yeah, like the fact that it was $1.1 million that of debt you just paid off. I appreciate you sharing that story. It's
Yeah,
definitely powerful.
I agree. Too. And I went to my business advisor in my early 40s, and I asked him, do business people bootstrap their way to success or use leverage to make their way towards success? And he said, most people use leverage. And 20 years later, I said, you told me that most people use leverage. And he said, yeah, but I didn't say it was a good idea. I wish you'd have told me to bootstrap it because I'd have saved myself a lot of anguish.
Yeah. And one thing I also like kind of off that idea of leverage in a different aspect though, because and I've been picking this up on some of the other like development calls that been on. It's like leverage doesn't always have to be debt, right? Like the fact that you're doing classes and workshops, that's leveraging your time to reach more people. It's not always one-to-one conversations that you're having. Now you're having 1 to 30, 1 to 50. If you're on social media, now you're having 1 to like 100 or whatever. And like having that broader reach is like leveraging your time and being respectful of your own time. And David, we had this conversation too about respecting yourself as a coach and what your time means. And I know a lot of us coaches get into that very early on. We just want to give every single hour we have, give everything for free and all this stuff. Um, but yeah, can you speak on some of that like self-confidence side of being a coach and knowing your value?
Yeah. Um, I know the value of what my wife and I went through to get where we are and how much it meant to us. And if I could go back in time and pay tens of thousands of dollars for it, I'd do it so easily and so quickly because I know what the cost was of 15 years of struggling through it on my own and what I thought was the right way to do things. So I know from a business standpoint and a high leverage standpoint, what can't go back in time. I know that, but what the value of good common sense, not following the crowd, not doing what everyone else is doing, um, ideology can do for you. And that's worth a lot. And in my consultations, I always try to make sure early in the consultation to ask questions that sort of build in the value equation that's going to be put at the end when you ask for the sale. If you budgeted really tightly and really well and managed your things, what do you think you could see in that? Well, and they say, well, $1,000 or $1,500, I'm sure I could do that. So that when you say my $300 fee, my fee is $300, they're already going to know that it's going to be worth it if they do what they know they're supposed to do. And that fees, I mean, my goal is to get my fee as high as I can in the $500 to $1,000 range at some point, just because I know I'm going to be creating that much value for them, and I know what my time's worth, and I know what I need to create, and I know what the impact is. I've got enough success stories in the bank, in the figurative bank, that I could go back in time. I'd charge them more because I've saved them so much. But it's not about me. I'm not saying that. But when you look at the business side of coaching and what your return on investment needs to be, you need to have faith that what you're going to be creating in the value proposition for them is worth so much more than what you're charging. You're giving a discount whether you like it or not, based on what you're worth. So either coach powerfully and acknowledge that, or raise your prices, and it'll still be a discount.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things with financial coaching. Like other coaching, you're spending money on a different outcome, whether it's like your relationships, your weight loss, and things like that. Financial coaching has a direct correlation with the actual money you'll get back, right? Like one of the things I tell my clients is like, this is better than any investment you can make in the stock market, right? And a lot less risk as long as you follow the process. Getting people out of the headspace of their own, limiting beliefs is a challenge. And asking the right questions, I think that's overlooked skill. The power of those questions to help them break through their own limiting beliefs is just so valuable as a coach that we can give to our clients. And so, kind of off of that, like, what were some of the limiting beliefs that you had to overcome, especially, kind of getting your running start with the business and stuff?
When you run into people that aren't committed and should be, when you run into people that won't pick up the phone when they told you 5 minutes ago they'd be there, you sort of have these questions of what am I doing and why am I doing it? Um, and when you know you're doing somebody good and they sort of refuse to see it or refuse to take action, it's like the story of the dog sitting on the nail, moaning and groaning. And the guy, the little boy asked, why is the dog moaning and groaning? And the old man says, he's sitting on a nail. And the little boy says, why didn't he get up? And the old man says, I guess it doesn't hurt bad enough. And that's where a lot of people are. They're sitting on a nail and it just doesn't hurt bad enough for them to get up off of it and stop their moaning and groaning. And that's hard to process through as a coach, but you have to realize that it's not you. There's an amount of time, there's a realization that they'll come to at some point or not, that the pain will be too much and they'll be sick and tired of being sick and tired and they'll want to do something about it. If you're there for them, and don't, cut them off or you limit your belief that, you tried and it didn't do any good, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, they'll still be in the same position because behavior change is hard and most people can't do it on their own.
Yeah, it's so important to draw those boundaries between where I am as a coach and where they are, right? Like we in a lot of ways help them along their journey and stuff, but we are not responsible for their outcome. And and with that, we're also not responsible for their lack of outcome. And really drawing that boundary is so important to have a healthy practice and healthy relationship with your clients. Absolutely.
We are responsible for helping them see the outcome. And
Hmm.
that's where the most benefit comes in. If you can help them visualize and see what it will look like when they get that $1 million paid off or, whatever the new car paid for or whatever it is that their kids off to college or whatever they're looking for, that's when the rubber meets the road and value is created.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I hope that anyone who's watching this, the value you're getting is that you're actually seeing a real person do the work, right? A real person getting the results and growing their business. And hopefully you can resonate with some of the struggles that all of us have and some of the questions that we have for one another, just because getting being around coaches and sharing your struggles and being encouraged by one another is so powerful. And if you can do it through watching this video, it's like awesome, right? We're leveraging this conversation to reach however many. I think Angie's video got like, you know, 50 or 80 views, which in the grand scheme of things is like, oh, like these videos are getting hundreds of thousands. Like that's nothing. But that's eight, like if you're in a room of 80 people and you were talking, you'd be nervous, wouldn't you? And same thing, like even if it's 20 views or anything like that, all the work that y'all are putting in on the development side of things and out on the coaching side of things, just know that it's all worth it. Just you got to keep going and keep pushing through. And one of the biggest things I realize is that it's going to take 10 times as much work as you think. But just like think about what you're doing right now, at least double the amount of work you're doing, or at least find a way to leverage that. And then hopefully you can start seeing the growth in your business just a little faster. Like I said, when I was really challenged, David, by you, I think that first conversation you were telling me 250,000 is what I want to make as a coach. I was like, absolutely crazy, David. I don't know why you're here. Um, but it got me thinking. I'm like, if David can, if David truly believes and has the goal to make $250,000, I would be crazy to only settle for 50 or 60. Like, what is stopping me from 100? What is stopping me from 150? And it's really just myself, right? Because people are doing it out there. You got to find them. You got to talk to them. And I hope this call gives you some insight of just like breaking through just that little bit of mental barrier to get to that next step to start that snowball of growth.
I'm curious, where are you now? Are you completely debt free now?
Yes. Been debt free since September 29th, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on
Wow.
2022 for 2 years.
Oh, so when you paid the 1.1, like that was it?
That's it. That was it.
Wow. That's incredible. Congratulations on that, because that's just, yeah.
It's a good feeling.
mind-boggling, but that's such an accomplishment. Holy moly.
Awesome. Guess we'll just wrap up the call. David, did you have any kind of like last words or remarks? Well, I guess one last piece of encouragement to the new coach out there that's like, oh man, I've been putting in the work and I'm not seeing any results. Like, just any word of encouragement for them.
Uh, it's Jason Witten was the tight end for the Cowboys, and he kind of said the answer's in the dirt. And what he meant was uh, continuing to practice what you're doing on a daily basis is that's the work. It's not the game. It's the practice. And everybody that's good at what they do puts in the work in advance of rather than focusing on the results. So if you put in the work, the results will come in every field and endeavor in life. And you've seen it countless times. And it's when you quit and when you give up that's when it stops. So the magic is in the work that you're putting in to achieve the results, not the actual results themselves.
I love that. And so if someone wants to reach out to you, kind of, pick your brain a little more, or even get coaching from you, like how would they contact you?
Cell phones 903-746-2952. Text me. And David S. Houston at sbcglobal.net is my email address. And I'm on Mighty Networks, on the development calls. I'm around. You can find me pretty easy.
Awesome. Well, yeah, David, I really appreciate you setting the time aside to have this conversation. I know a lot of people didn't show up live on the call, but I know that this will reach so many people. And if this just gets one or two coaches out of that circular mindset of I'm not a good coach or I can't grow this business and everyone else is just lucky, if you can just help those couple of coaches, then it was worth it.
You
Right.
bet.
To all the people watching the recording, thank you for sticking to the end. Hopefully you got value from this. And if you want more, content like this, we're going to try to do calls where we're meeting coaches who are actually doing the work and getting the results. We're going to try to do that probably every other week or, twice a month and something like that. Drop a comment if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to us. We're here to support you in your journey. And with that, we will see you next time.